Kids, good morning. Today's video is going to be called A Gun for Me? Really? Now, I realize that this is a contentious issue across the country, and I realize that people have very passionate thoughts about gun control or having no gun control at all, and the Second Amendment, etc. And they believe that there's principles involved. And I can understand that. It's basically the same as some people believe in their religion, or people believe in whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of beliefs. You can believe anything. Um, I'm here to talk about it on a personal note, gun control. Now, there's this thing called universal background checks that's going around that's rather popular with about 90% of people. I happen to be one of those 90% of people um, because I've been adjudicated insane. Um, Absolutely insane. I have my official diagnosis is schizoaffective bipolar disorder with anxiety and other complications. Would you want me to have a gun? Seriously? If you understood the disease, I don't think you would. I know I don't. I don't want to have a gun. If I had a gun, there have been many times I probably would have killed myself, just out of despair. Truly, if it was just that readily available, if I could have just reached over and it was already preloaded and I didn't have to think about it or do anything besides pull the trigger, I probably could have gotten to that point. Probably a couple hundred times in my life. I could have killed myself over and over and over again. Now, the fact that I don't have a gun and therefore suicide requires thought, preparation, planning, and work, um, and being that I'm mostly depressive, I don't have that kind of energy. So that, therefore, I live, I exist. But if I had it readily available, I probably would have ended my life, like I said, at least 100 times since I was in my 20s, at least. Now, one of the other things that happens with people like me, and particularly people with bipolar disorder, is we have this very strong sense of justice, and it gets offended easily, and um, it becomes outrageous to us when our sense of justice is offended. Now, that could lead to a psychotic episode where you would take action to remedy the and or make justice occur on your own. And having a gun available would make that a disaster in some cases, and it has, obviously, every day in our country. Um, So the idea that people would be fighting to give someone like me a gun, I'm sorry, from an insane perspective, it's insane. I would not want one. I would not trust myself with one. Um, I had the displeasure of using one as a child and killing something, and it was, I still occasionally have nightmares from that. But because it offended my sense of justice. Um, that's all. I mean, pure and simple. But if I felt passionately about something, or if I had a medication change and went on some kind of psychotic fit, or had a paranoid delusion or something like that, I could use that gun to do a great deal of harm to someone or to a group of people. And then you have to think about this. In someone like my situation, what you're looking for is you're looking for safety, and you're looking for um, like the bottom. Some like how do I say this? You're looking for the foundation of your life at times, and if I felt threatened or despaired, I could easily go on a rampage just to be arrested, so that I would at least know what was going to happen to me, and I wouldn't feel threatened and despaired. because I know I'd be safely put away in jail. So, I mean, people have to really consider this. And I mean, I'm talking seriously from perspective of someone that's insane, that um, that doesn't want a gun and doesn't want to hurt anybody, including myself. Um, but the idea, I don't know what you're fighting for. For you people that are fighting for liberty for all and all this kind of stuff, it's a cute idea, I guess, but it doesn't make much sense in the real world. And then if you think about it, what if it was your family that I decided to go off on, or you? Because I thought you were a dick. And I thought that what you were fighting for was unjust. So then I just shot you in the face and left your family to suffer without you. You see what I'm saying? It makes no sense at all. So think about what you're fighting for. I mean, people should have the right to bear arms to an extent, but there's an extent that the founding fathers did not mean for us to bear arms. They did not mean for us to have military assault weapons running around in the streets, outgunning the police. And they did not mean, it was more about, defense of your home or defense of, or going out and hunting your dinner. It wasn't, it was a whole different time. You've got to drag yourself out of the 17th or 18th century and into like maybe the 19th century or, God forbid, the 20th century, um, and have a look at what life is really like these days. It's a much different situation than it was in the days of our founding fathers. Um, they never envisioned guns like we have. I mean, they didn't say, oh, everybody can have a cannon. I mean, every house didn't have a cannon in the front yard back in those days. Cannons were used by the military. You didn't have a battleship on your private lake back in those days. I mean, come on, it's just it's insanity. It's like, oh, let's as I pointed out one time in an example, well, why not empty out the mental hospitals and take them out to the airport with shoulder-fired rockets and let them go shoot down airplanes for the afternoon? I mean, why not? If we all have the Second Amendment right, we might as well, go all the way. That's just insane. It doesn't make any sense to me. Um, think about it. People talk about Sandy Hook and they talk about Newtown and they talk about Aurora and they talk about Columbine and all these where these kids have gotten slaughtered. When parents lose their children, regardless of how they lose their children, it's absolutely devastating to parents. My parents lost my younger brother, and it was devastating to them, and it was devastating to my grandparents. But it wasn't by a gun; he was electrocuted. It didn't make the pain any less that it wasn't a gun. It's a devastating thing. But imagine the silliness of having your child wasted away by a gun that shouldn't have been in the hands of somebody like me that had no business having it, and it was just left out of control. Certainly that like the Newtown guy's mother had a legal right to buy all this crap, but she didn't have a right to leave it out for him to go take it and go shoot up the joint. I mean, seriously, think about it. And then you say, oh, well, that's just a mistake. It's just a one-off. Well, we have all these one-offs all the time. I mean, since November 14th, we've had over 3,000 other people die in the United States, just in the United States, from guns, just from guns. Not including all the other ways you can kill somebody with knives and poisons and car accidents and plane crashes and whatever, work accidents, but just guns. Think about what you're fighting for. Think about what you're asking for. Use some common sense. Use me as an example. I don't mind being the crazy example that says, hey, I'm crazy, don't give me a gun. Stop me even in a private transaction. Even if it was my parents or my stepmother or somebody giving me a gun, no one should be giving me a gun at all. Ever. Ever. Seriously. Think about that. I do. And I listen to these arguments on TV, and I listen and I read these things, and it horrifies me. It horrifies me that there's people that are so blind, have such blinders on, that they're so worried and so paranoid about their guns being taken away that they fight for people like me to have guns. Maybe they shouldn't have guns because they're that paranoid and that delusional that they think it's okay for me. Seriously, keep that in mind. Ask yourself, when these fringe people come out screaming and yelling with these, these wild notions, are they stable enough to really have a gun? Or are they part of the problem? Are they part of the reason people are getting killed every day? That's what I think about. Have a good one.